Is it cute?
Ooh.
It's not cute.
Oh no.
Is it delicious?
It looks great.
Yeah. Hey guys, we are in my apartment kitchen, not at Food 52. We have husband/camera person Mike as our crew.
Hello.
And we are trying to shoot this video in the time that the baby takes her nap. So we're gonna go as quickly as possible, which means that I'm gonna be able to show you some shortcuts with this recipe for you to be able to make it as quickly as possible too. It is a cake that is very, very delicious. It's very versatile and you can do things with it based on whatever you have on hand. And it doesn't require any special equipment, just some bowls and your hand to stir it. This recipe comes from Jami Curl's new cookbook, Baking Gold. And the great thing about this cookbook is that it includes, I think, 3 doughs, 2 batters, and 1 magic baking mix to mix and match into like 75 plus different kinds of cakes and cookies and other great stuff. Her goal in writing this book, she told me, was to make each component as simple as possible. So that's why this cake batter can just be stirred together with your hands and a bowl and something like this, as opposed to using a stand mixer like I have sitting gathering dust over there. First you mix the dry ingredients. Here's some regular all-purpose flour. Here's some sugar. This is baking powder, right? Baking powder, not baking soda. I measured it myself last night, but I forget.
Baking powder, 1 tablespoon plus 2 teaspoons.
This is baking powder, a good amount of it. And some salt. And that just gets stirred together. You could use a whisk here, but I'm gonna dirty one less thing. Then this part is what makes the batter so quick to make and means that you don't have to use a stand mixer or a hand mixer, any kind of electric mixer, because it is oil-based. I'll just point to that first. There are a bunch of different advantages to making an oil-based cake over a butter-based cake. For one thing, you can just make it immediately because when you have a butter-based cake, often you'll have to let the butter soften so that you can cream it. And that means beating it like crazy with butter and sugar in usually an electric mixer like that. In the old days, people did it by hand, but every time I've tried to do it by hand, I have just gotten really exhausted and not really been able to make it as fluffy as you would make it in an electric mixer. So butter-based cakes are wonderful. They have great flavor, but it means that you have to have some sort of special equipment, and it also means that you have to usually wait a little bit. With oil-based cakes, you can just pour and go. Also, sort of a secret hidden advantage is that they keep longer without going stale. And that's because I learned from Shirley Corrier and her cookbook Bakewise, which explains all of the whys of the science in baking. Oil coats flour better than butter does, which prevents flour from linking up with the other moisture that's going into the batter and forming gluten. And when gluten forms, it means that it's squeezing out moisture over time, which means that it's getting drier and staler faster. So that's also the reason why you don't want to overmix your baked goods, why people say stop as soon as the flour is incorporated, because the more you mix, the more gluten you're forming and the more dry and tough the cake is gonna get because of that gluten. You obviously need some gluten to be able to hold the structure of the cake, but you don't want tons. The only disadvantage is that it doesn't have as great of a flavor as butter. And so that's where this comes in, which is sour cream. So Jami wanted to make an oil-based cake that was super easy and versatile, but she wanted it to have really great flavor, so she added sour cream. And if you don't have sour cream on hand, she told me you can substitute yogurt, you could substitute coconut cream, you could substitute creme fraiche, whatever you have on hand. It might affect the texture a little bit and make the cake a little bit more moist and maybe a little bit denser, but it will work really well. So you can use whatever you have. So the first step, now that I've given you all that background, is to just mix the sour cream and the eggs together with a fork. And I think I see a tiny piece of shell, and I'm gonna fish it out. So there are two tricks if you do lose shell into your bowl. One is to use the eggshell itself to scoop it out, and the other one that I really like is to use a wet finger. Boop. Come here. Wow, it's so tiny. It's like really evading me. I'm gonna try with wetting my finger again.
But usually this is 100%, right?
I'm gonna do the eggshell trick. Let's do the eggshell trick. There, okay, and it's good to have both tricks. Because sometimes one doesn't work. Okay, that's pretty well blended. Now the oil's gonna go in. And some vanilla. Because this is a vanilla sour cream batter, there's a lot of vanilla. You kind of can't overdo vanilla. Which is a good thing because I just spilled a bunch in. It calls for a tablespoon, but I'm using a teaspoon, so I'm measuring out 3. Because I think my tablespoon is in the dishwasher. Okay, that's it. Stirring this together with the fork now. It's just until it looks smooth and creamy, which I would say it is. Okay, now wet goes into dry, and then our batter is done. I'm not wasting any of this. Okay. Now this just gets stirred together. I think the flour has just disappeared, so I'm gonna stop and scrape it into my 9x13 pan.
Sorry, boiling water?
Oh, thank you. I'm gonna get some water boiling. We're actually not done. I forgot about a very important part, which is dumping this boiling water on at the end, which feels really strange and counterintuitive, but it happens in a lot of recipes, and I believe it's to kind of help kickstart the leavener, the baking powder that's in here, and also just like really start cooking the batter too. It's like moistening and cooking the flour. I could be not entirely right about that, but when I've done research, I haven't figured out what it is about this boiling water. But you'll see, it makes the batter look really nice. So it's gonna go from like a stiff, almost cookie dough looking batter to more of a cake batter that pours. All right, there's my cake batter. It smells really good from that vanilla and the sour cream. So I'm just gonna dump it into this 9x13 pan that has some parchment that I did a very messy job of putting in the bottom of my pan, but when I ripped it and it looked all messy, I was not about to throw it away and start over, so we're using it. I highly recommend getting your face this close to the cake batter. It just smells phenomenal. I just gotta smooth it into the pan so it's even in there. Parchment is going to help this cake come out in one piece. All right, and I could do this smoothing motion all day, but I'm gonna stop. That is gonna go into the oven at 350 for like 35 or so minutes. I see that cameraman Mike is looking concerned that my oven is at 325, but I'll tell you why that is. Because I have an oven thermometer down there and I check it, my oven usually runs about 25 degrees hot. That was the basic cake batter. If you have any questions about substitutions because you don't have something on hand, please let us know, ask us in the comments, or go to the Food 52 hotline and ask there for lots of home cooks all over's opinions, because they will probably have had experience. If you happen to have like only spelt flour or only yogurt or whatever They will have answers for you, and you can figure out what can work in your cake batter. In the meantime, while it's baking, I'm gonna show you the things that go with the cake in this particular variation. But there are so many different things you could do with this cake. You could just make it like this, but sprinkle fruit on top, frozen or fresh. You could stir fruit through. You could put like a crumble on top if you wanted, or you could just make this plain vanilla cake and eat it in all kinds of different ways throughout the week with jam or with butter or just toasted or with almond butter, kind of anything you want to do with it. But this time we're gonna make a strawberry compote and a butterscotch whipped cream, which are both really easy. So the next thing to do for this version of the recipe is make this strawberry compote. Jami likes to use frozen fruit for this because frozen fruit is picked at its peak ripeness and immediately frozen. And for something like this, where you're just kind of like bubbling it down into a delicious saucy thing, you don't need the texture of a fresh fruit anyway. So you might as well use frozen, which also means that it's really handy for right now when you probably have more frozen fruit in your freezer, and it will work with any frozen fruit, she said. Any berry, peaches, mango, whatever you like. So here I'm using the strawberries, and they're just gonna go in here. I should also point out that this recipe actually makes a lot more compote for the whole cake, but I am making a quarter batch because it's just me and camera person Mike and a baby. And so I don't feel like I need all of that compote, and I really want to save my sugar for other projects. So this is one way that you can make the whole cake and enjoy it in different ways, and the cake will last longer if you don't put all the toppings on right away. It gets a little apple cider vinegar, which I will be daring and pour it over the pot. This is just gonna help kind of sharpen the flavors of the fruit, offset the sweetness a little bit. It's only a little bit, and there's a lot of sugar, so you're not gonna taste a lot of vinegar. It just is gonna help make it more interesting tasting. Strawberries are starting to soften, their juice is starting to come out. So I'm gonna start adding the sugar a little bit at a time, and that's gonna help the strawberries keep releasing more juice. Okay, now I'm gonna just let that bubble for a little while, 12 to 15 minutes, until it is jammy and compote-y. I can say that again without honking cars. It's gonna reduce, it's going to look very syrupy and compote-y, and the strawberries are gonna break down. And so you just wanna stop it when it looks like a compote you want to, sorry. You want to stop when it looks like a compote that you want to pour over your cake, but a little bit runnier, because as it cools, it's going to get thicker and kind of seize up a little bit. If you go too far and it gets too thick, that's okay. You can always thin it again with a little bit of water. So you have a little bit of play there. And this is gonna make your house smell like you just made jam, even though you only made a little bit of compote. While that strawberry compote is bubbling down, I'm gonna make the whipped cream. It's just cream, brown sugar, and vanilla, and that makes butterscotch whipped cream. You don't have to make a caramel or anything. So it all just goes in at the same time. I am making a quarter batch of this as well, because we're only gonna eat a quarter of the cake this way, and the rest we'll eat in other ways. This was chilled, really everything was chilled overnight. Quick break. This is a really good thing to get other people in your household involved in too. If they're not busy operating cameras, so that you can all take breaks.
This is boring.
Okay. That's a soft peak. This is how I like my whipped cream. Very soft, very spoonable, not stiff. I appreciate the arm workout, I have to say. Oh, compote. So the keys to cooling something down fast in an ice bath are to have your inner substance in a metal container, which is more conductive. If I had put this into a glass or ceramic bowl and then put it in here, it would still be kind of warm and steamy for quite a while. With this, it's getting those cold temperatures in super fast, and this will be ready to spoon over my cake that much faster. And stirring helps because it's kind of taking all of the colder edges and moving them into the middle and moving the warm middle out to the edges to cool off, and it makes it all go faster. So see, as it's cooling, it's already thickening up and looking very jammy. And like it's gonna be really good on this cake. This is the part where the cake is still really hot, but I'm gonna try and cut into it anyway. I chose a steak knife because I wanted a serrated edge, but not the like extra prongs that this guy has. We'll see how it goes. I think this is not advisable because your cake still needs to finish cooking through. It's gonna totally tear the cake apart, but I really wanna eat it right now. Hey, not too bad. It's missing a couple chunks, but okay, here's my lovely cake. I have my compote and my whipped cream, and I get to just eat it, I think. I should also tell you that I decided my whipped cream was a little bit stiffer than I wanted, and show you what I do when that happens. If you have over whipped your cream just a little bit, not fully going to butter, you can dribble in a little bit more cream and then just fold it in with your spoon, and it will loosen and get more fluffy and more spoonable. Is it cute?
Ooh.
It's not cute.
Oh no.
Is it delicious?
It looks great.
Yeah.
No, it looks very cute.
Well, I'm gonna eat this.
Can I still have some?
Yes, always. I wouldn't normally have endorsed pulling a piece of hot cake out of a pan, but I think I just changed my mind. Because the warm cake with this cold whipped cream on top melting into it and the strawberry jam is pretty incredible. It's like a strawberry shortcake, but a little bit different because you got the butterscotchy whipped cream and you've got like a slight tang in the strawberry. It's very, very good. I hope you guys try it. I hope you like it. I hope that you let us know if you need help figuring out substitutions, and we will do our best. So if you would like this week's recipe, the whole thing is linked down below. And if you would like more of these recipes every week, be sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel, and tell us in the comments what you would do with this cake batter. Would you stir fruit in, put fruit on top, put crunchy things on top, or do exactly this? I would love to hear. I'll see you next week.